Welcome to the First Parish in Framingham. We are a welcoming congregation, so whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We welcome you here in the meeting house, or on Zoom, or wherever and whenever you may be watching this service in the future. I'm Andre Lamontagne. I use he, him pronouns, and I am your worship associate this morning. Be sure to read the announcements in the order of service. Immediately following worship, you are invited to join us for coffee hour in Scott Hall, just across the courtyard. Please take a moment to turn your phones or other devices to their quietest settings. While beeps and buzzes can be distracting, we welcome your human noises, especially the sound of your singing. So please join in. Today's service is for all ages and looks a little bit different than normal. Since 1701, people have gathered as this community to rest or recharge, to be challenged or armed. These people are like you. You belong here, maybe only for the next hour, but we hope for longer. We are happy to have you with us. I now invite you to take a deepening breath in and out. Continue to take a few more breaths and to begin to release whatever you need to let go of, to be more fully present to yourself, one another, and the sacred in this time and place.
I invite Abigail forward to help light our chalice today. Our words for our chalice lighting are attributed to Kalidasa. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision, but today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. So normally, when we say the words of affirmation or when we sing, we invite you to rise in body or spirit. Today, we are inviting you to consider to rest and sit as we say these words. However, if you really do need to get up and stand, you're invited to do that as well. So let us now sing our sung affirmation. The words are in your order of service.
Peace, goodwill on earth be
Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God. So now we will sing hymn 121, We'll Build a Land. And you can remain seated for that if that is what you need.
Singing is just another way of reading poetry out loud. It just adds a melody to it and just changes a little bit, and it's a little more directed. You've got different notes which hold for longer than others, and others that are quicker. Sometimes there are longer phrases that need to flow, and so there should be no interruptions. You'll notice in the music there's no rest, there's no comma, there's no space between the words. You want to pay attention to those so that you're getting the meter that was intended by the composer for the individual piece. We'll Build a Land is a pretty good example of this. It's kind of a simple one, so it's real easy to follow along. In the second and fourth verses of this piece, you have longer phrases. So plan ahead, get a little extra wind. You need a little extra breath. All right? So on verse 2, if you'll look at that just for a moment, most people will stop after good tidings, take a breath, and continue. And there should be no pause. It should be just kind of linear, just kind of stretched right out. Okay, it should be more like, we've built a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn. Okay, so give that a try. All right, so 1, 2, 3. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn. Very nice, very nice. Because you can hear how it kind of interrupts and it changes the feel in the meter of the piece. Very subtle changes, but they're so important. And it was so intentional by the composer because that was the statement. So it's just as reading poetry, you have phrases and meter and everything else. Music is exactly the same. With the choir, this happens quite a bit because when you get into more involved pieces, you really want that inflection. And it makes all the difference in the world. This is just a subtle change. But one of the things that we do is a breathing exercise. And that helps to expand your ability to hold those notes longer. It's also a wonderful relaxation technique. When you're stressed out, you just ran a 5K or something, you're all out of breath. You sit back and do, I don't run. You sit back and you do one of these breathing exercises, and before long, you're completely relaxed and you've got your wind back. The one that I like the most is called a 4-7-8 breathing exercise. What you're going to do is you're going to inhale for 4 seconds, hold the breath for 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds. All right, so we'd like you to give that a try. All right, and remain seated. You don't have to stand up for this. So breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold that breath, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, do that one more time. Ready? Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Over time, that helps, like I said, to make it so you're able to hold those notes longer. Very importantly, though, that gives you a chance to sit back and relax. When you're focused on your breathing, all the other problems you have going on, they kind of go away. Holding the breath allows your body to absorb that oxygen that you've just breathed in. Exhaling, and it's a wonderful way to relax. So give it a try.
So last summer, or the summer before that, a lot of people in my profession and adjacent to it read 2 books. They were called Psalm for the Wild-Built and A Prayer for the Crown-Shy by Becky Chambers. They speak of the feeling of tiredness that people in helping jobs can often feel. They also speak of the great joy that people in those jobs can feel. Now, these books take place in a world that has gone through a lot of transitions. They never tell what the transition was, though you can piece it together with a few things, like there are no more cars, there is only one city in the entire world, and there is this thing where they do not interact with robots at all. So clearly there has been some pain in this world and some change. Now, there are 2 main characters in this book. One is a tea monk named Sibling Dex, and in the beginning, Sibling Dex is a garden monk, and soon they realize that they are supposed to, in fact, be a tea monk. Someone who listens to others and who makes a special blend of tea just for the person that they have been speaking with. Early on in the book, Sibling Dex realizes that they need to get out of the city where they are living. Becky Chambers writes, it doesn't matter that the city was a good city, as Panga's only city was. It doesn't matter that your friends were there. It doesn't matter that every building you love was there, every park whose best hidden corners you know, every street your feet instinctively follow without needing to check directions. The city was beautiful. There was beautiful architecture in it. There were connected elevated rail lines and smooth footpaths, and every inhaled breath was perfumed with cooking spice, fresh nectar, and laundry drying in the pristine air. The city was a healthy place, a thriving place, a never-ending harmony of making, doing, growing, trying, running, and living. Now, at some point, Sibling Dex realizes that they really want to hear the sound of crickets. And crickets in this world do not live in the city. They're not even sure where they can be found. Along that same moment, Sibling Dex realizes that their vocation has to shift. Dex was no longer nursing something as simple as an odd fantasy for a faraway insect. That itch had spread into every aspect of their life. When they looked up at the skyscrapers, they no longer marveled at their height, but despaired at their density. Endless stacks of humanity packed in so close that the vines that covered their engineered caisson frames could lock tendrils with one another. That feeling of containment within the city became intolerable. And then early one spring day, Sibling Dex wakes up and puts on the brown and red robes of their order, bypassed the kitchen for the first time in the 9 years they lived at Meadow Den, and they walked right into the keeper's office. Sibling Dex said, "I'm going to change my vocation. I'm going to the villages to do the tea service." Sister Mara, who was the keeper, had been in the middle of slathering a golden piece of toast with as much jam as it could structurally support. She held her spoon still and blinked. "Well, that's rather sudden." "For you," Dex said, "but not for me." "Okay," Sister Mara said, for her duties as keeper were simply to oversee, not to dictate. This was a modern monastery, not some pre-transition hierarchy like the pre-transition clergy of old. If Sister Mara knew what was up with the monks under their shared roof, her job was satisfied. She asked, "Do you want an apprenticeship?" And Sibling Dex said, "No, I want to learn by doing. I want to self-teach." And Sister Mara said, "Can I ask why?" And Sibling Dex said, I don't really know. It's just what I feel I need to do." This book accurately describes that feeling of doing the thing that you were meant to do, that you realized that you were meant to do, and then absolutely fumbling that first time. You know, that first time that you get up to teach a lesson, or that first time that you get to meet with a client, or that first time you do anything. You've read about it, you've thought about it, and you just fall flat on your face. As time goes on, Sibling Dex gets good, very good at this profession that they have chosen, rather. And then they start to get tired, even though they are doing what they are meant to do. The road from the woodlands led to the road to the coastlands, which led to the riverlands, which led to the shrublands, and back to the woodlands once more. Dex made their circuit again and again and again and again. The crowds got bigger, the dinners more frequent, the blends Dex served became a little bit more creative as time went on. As far as the life of a tea monk went, this was as successful as they could be. Then one morning, they woke up, and they knew that they had slept, but they were so tired. There was a deep absence of memory stretching unbroken from when they had been listening to the frogs in the dark trees outside to now. As they squinted at their pocket computer, they noticed a clean 7.5 hours had passed. There was no good reason for waking up tired. There had been no reason for it any other morning. Maybe they needed to eat better. Maybe there was some vitamin or good sugar or something they weren't getting enough of. That was probably it, they thought, even though a recent clinic checkup had cleared them on all of these fronts. The best part of the day, the part of the day that they looked forward to the most, they were noticing, was not the work that they were doing, but rather the time when they would get up into their wagon, shut themselves inside, and spend a few precious moments alone. And they wondered, why wasn't it enough? What's clear is that sibling decks had burnt out. They venture off in the next part into a part of the land that they're not supposed to be in. And there they meet a robot called Mosscap, who's in fact made of many different robot parts. And they go off learning about the world together, learning about who they are. As I read this book and have listened to it as well many times now, I realized that most of this book could take place in our world, but there are a few minor differences. Changes that we might wish to see. Becky Chambers writes about those changes as though the change that we wish to see has been the way it's always been. For instance, sibling decks is never referred to with other pronouns other than they or them. And the fact is never a problem for them or those around them. Other monks are known as sibling decks or brother or sister. Nobody has to fight for a gender neutral or a gender non-binary option. There's no mention of classes or workshops or explanations. It is how it is. There are other things in it, like there's a pocket computer that Sibling Decks has had for 17 years. And they mention it's been repaired many times, as all pocket computers should be. Objects are printed on 3D printers, not using plastics, but fruit pectin. It was a good read because it brings me hope about how a world might be. These books, I don't think, are meant to be justice-making books. But as I read them, they do feel like prophetic imagination, which is in fact justice-making. Anything that has changed for the better in our world, that has allowed people to live more fully and love more freely, first came to be because someone was looking at the world and said, no, that is not good enough. The person who says it can be better is a prophet. The poets, the musicians, the essayists, the storytellers, the artists, the imaginers who see between the words and read the signs of the future. They imagine this new future. I don't know if he coined the term prophetic imagination, but Walter Brueggemann has certainly written a lot about it. He explains that the prophet engages in a futuring fantasy, and the prophet does not ask questions if the vision can be implemented, for questions of implementation are of no consequence until the vision can be imagined. Imagination must come before implementation. Our culture is competent to implement almost anything and to imagine almost nothing. The same royal consciousness that makes it possible to implement anything and everything is the one that shrinks imagination, because imagination is a danger. Every totalitarian regime is frightened of the artist. It is the vocation of the prophet to keep alive the ministry of imagination, to keep on conjuring and proposing futures alternative to the single one, that the king wants to urge us as the only thinkable one. The next future, the next present, the next normal does not first emerge from study groups or task forces. It emerges from the work of a poet who does not want to follow any of the rules, who creates new images, new phrases, and invites us to what may come next. Change, more concrete, may emerge, but first the image comes. Today, we invite you to imagine a world that treats rest as normal and expected, something that is welcomed. We won't answer all the questions, we'll probably pose more questions, but we hope something new might emerge from this imagining together. I invite you to think of the various ways we each rest throughout this service. What does it feel like at the end of a long school week, or a soccer game, or after a performance? What does the unexpected gift of a snow day feel like, or vacation from the ordinary? What does it feel like to be well rested? What do you do? What space do you also need? So while our service today is about rest, Here now, we invite you to move if you need to move. Maybe it's just shaking the wiggles out if you've got those, or maybe you even want to try a different seat. Yes, you can switch in the middle of the service. You can switch your seat. This is your invitation to move in whatever way you might need to.
Did anybody get brave enough to move to a whole different place? All right, I need 2 helpers who are willing to read a couple of lines for this next bit. Who's coming up to help? Come on up, Abigail. Oh, come on up. Are you comfy in your coat? All right, here is a script for you and a script for you. Can you be, can you be waiter 1 and waiter 2? And all your lines are right here on this page. Just right here. Okay, and this is going to be the door to the kitchen in the restaurant. Okay, so you can start out over there, and waiter 1's going to come in and say lines from right here, facing them because they don't want to see your bums. All right. Okay. This story is based on an example from Brene Brown's book, Atlas of the Heart, and from a conversation that she had with Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach on the podcast, We Can Do Hard Things. It is used as an example of the difference between stressed and overwhelmed. The restaurant is packed. It's loud, and every table is full, and people are lined up out the door. There's at least one angry person at every table who is desperately trying to wave down a waiter.
We never got our bread. We need more tea. We've been waiting on our salads for 20 minutes. Excuse me, we need our check now, unless you don't want us to pay for this lousy service.
Brene Brown swears a lot in her book, so I changed that language to make it church appropriate. You can hear the kitchen manager's voice booming through the swinging doors.
The food on the line is dying. Let's go, let's go. We've got desserts ready for table 10 and bread ready for tables 3, 4, and 8.
One waiter walks into the kitchen looking dazed. I'm in the weeds.
What do you mean? Can you take my bread to table 2 and 4 and 3, tables 3 and 5, please?
Nice. Being in the weeds and pulling out of the weeds happens to everyone on almost every shift. It's part of the job, and you learn to manage it. Now, our waiter comes into the kitchen and just stands there. So this is Abigail, you.
Hey, Bobby, you're locking the door.
I'm blown. The kitchen gets really quiet. No one asks what Bobby needs. Someone runs to the hostess stand to find out what tables Bobby's running that shift. They don't even assume that Bobby knows at this point, because they are blown. The kitchen manager, who would never get involved in an in-the-weeds situation, pulls all the tickets for Bobby's guests to evaluate what's happening and immediately assigns Bobby's tables to other wait staff. When you're blown, you can either step outside, go into the cooler, or you can go to the bathroom and cry. Whatever you need. You're expected back in 10 minutes, ready to go, but for 10 minutes, there is a complete takeover. Brene Brown says, in 6 years, it happened to me twice, both times due to pure exhaustion at the end of triple shifts that I was working because tuition was due. All right, you guys are done. Thank you so much. That was awesome. And you can listen to the story of what happened to Brene Brown the time that instead of going and sitting for 10 minutes, she was at the end of the shift, so she decided to drive home. And it sounds like a sketch out of like, I don't know, old sketch comedies with like things happening, but it was real life. People, anyway, restaurant work is really stressful. And the restaurant that Brene Brown worked in had a plan for dealing with times when their employees were stressed, in the weeds, or overwhelmed, blown. The waiters were able to ask for help by using the code in the weeds and to take a break if they were overwhelmed. There was no shame in either being in the weeds or in being blown. These were things that happened to everyone once in a while. And the important thing was to deal with it, not to give people the message that asking for help or being overwhelmed is bad and something you should just push through. In this paradise island here that we have created of prophetic imagination that you're sitting today in our sanctuary, we who take rest seriously don't just have a plan for restaurant work. We have a plan so that every single person gets rest when they need it. So we're going to form small groups, 3 or 4 people around us, and we're going to talk about one plan. Each of you picks one that we have in our rest positive society that helps make sure that everyone gets their rest. You could choose a person like a mom or a firefighter or a school teacher, an executive, a minister, whatever, and you make a plan. And you have about 3 minutes to talk about your plan, and then we'll get to hear a couple. Please, talk amongst yourselves. I'm not afraid I'm still on, so conversation. This whole series. Fantastic. I would love to hear 2 plans. That's what we've got time for. Who's got a plan that they want to share?
We chose a teacher.
It's on.
We chose a teacher because teachers are overwhelmed and stressed. We thought a teacher could bring a little bit of nature into his or her classroom by having an infuser with some, I'm sorry, it's not on.
Can we get the handheld? Is it on? We might need to unmute it. Hold on. Try that.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. So a teacher that is overwhelmed and stressed, we thought bringing nature into her or his classroom by having an infuser with essential oils that are very calming, and he or she could turn it on when they needed it, and bringing nature inside, and also breathing. We also thought leaning on the person next to you was very soothing. We're not sure that the students would think so. So bringing nature into the classroom.
Nice. Good plan. Okay, we have a plan over here.
As a tech writer, I was responsible for creating books describing software, and I was working with an engineer, and the engineers are the ones who present us with the functionality which we describe. So I was dependent on an engineer in Colorado while I was in Boston, and he was not bringing me any materials. And I found out he hadn't even created the functional specification. So, and the deadline was looming. So he was going to be hurt too by not having all this done. And his product was a changeover from, it was like a translation of something for a different platform. So I took the old book in the old platform and created a new book and presented it to him and said, you have to fill in these things. So that saved us both, because as a team member, I helped take up the slack.
Nice. Having a team is often great. Do any of the groups that had a youth or child in it awesome, here we go.
So our group, we talked about so at school we have guidance offices, and we said that there would be something for adults, like a guidance counselor, but for adults and not just in a school environment.
Nice. Love that. Excellent thinking. Thank you. Thank you all for participating in our little experiment.
As we prepare to take this morning's offering, may each of us look into not just our wallets or our checkbooks to see how much we have with us. Let us look into our hearts as well and see what is available there. How much love, how much generosity, how much faith, how much gratitude, how much hope. And let us take our offering from that account. If this is your first time joining us, you are invited to let the offering pass you by.
This is the time in our service that we set aside for sharing of the things which weigh deepest on our hearts, our milestones, our happy and sad occasions. We share our sorrows because we know that a sorrow shared can feel as though someone is lifting a burden. We share joys because we know that joy shared is joy expanded. You can submit your joys or sorrows online or at the book that is in the back of the sanctuary normally. After our sharing of the joys and the sorrows and a candle for the things which remain too great to share, we will sing "There is a Love," which is printed in your order of service. We sing to hold those things which weigh deepest in song, and also so that you can have a song to sing when you need that moment of centering. Begin with the sorrows of our gathered community. David Mendelson writes this: "My mother Margaret passed away last Sunday. She was just a few weeks short of her 110th birthday. A strong woman and wonderful mother, she'll be missed by me, my two brothers, and our families." And this sorrow from Diane, who shares that she's thinking of her dear friend Carmen as she honors the passing of her husband 1 year ago this week. We share this joy from David Doucette, who writes, "It'll be good to have Deb home this afternoon. We've been apart for a few days." And we light one final candle for all of the joys and all of the sorrows that remain too great to share. Let us now sing "There is a Love." There's a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. Do we want to sing that other verse? There is a love holding us. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. Thank you. Let us return to that deepening breath from 50 minutes ago that Andre invited us to notice. To feel that love that is holding all. To feel that which is supporting us. The strength of this community, the pew that we are sitting on, the floor supporting us. O Spirit of life and love, named and unnamed, but who calls us each by our true first name, which is beloved. We give thanks for what we have, for loved ones, for friends and family, for the food in our bellies and these sheltering walls. We know it did not have to be this way, and so we are grateful. We know too that in our community there are people who live with illness, who mourn, who struggle with addiction. May we, with our helping hands and our listening ears, have the courage to do what needs to be done. I pray for peace in all of the war-torn parts of our world, whether halfway across the globe or in our own homes. Let us work to bend the arc of the universe towards justice, towards that imagined future. Let us work to make that imagination real. Because we are human, we are mistake-making creatures. We put up walls between ourselves and others. Because we are breathing, there's always still time to rebuild, to move back into right relationship. I say these words and do all things for love's sake. Let us sit in the quiet of this space for just a little bit longer. Go in peace.